Hi, and welcome back to Lisa's Stamp Studio. My name is Lisa Curcio. Today we're making 4 adorable birthday cards using this one piece of 6x6 designer series paper. In addition to sharing some really great tips with you, I've got an unusual way to use one of the images in the stamp set that I'm going to be sharing with you today. And if this is your first time visiting my YouTube channel, I would love to have you subscribe. Next to the subscribe button, you'll see a small bell icon. If you click that, you'll receive notifications when I'm live right here on YouTube, as well as when I share a new video. Let's head over to the stamp table and let's get started on today's project. I'm going to be using the Birthday Bonanza Designer Series papers. Really fun, bold designs, and you're going to be able to see that several of these designs here are great for anyone of any age. Now, these papers are double-sided, giving you lots and lots of options. As a matter of fact, I know that you can see a few here that you can use on all different types of cards. Now for my 6x6, I chose to use this pattern, and all I did was cut it in half at 6x12, which left me this. And then I cut it in half one more time, which left me the 6x6. I'm using my Stampin' Trimmer here, and I've got my designer series paper, and I'm going to walk you through the cuts to make the 4 cards. Now, the cards I'm going to be sharing with you today are just ideas of how you can use these pieces. I'm sure you can come up with a lot of ideas of your own. The very first cut we're going to make is at the 4-inch mark. So I'm going to line up my paper right here against the gauge at the top, which is going to make it nice and straight. This trimmer has both a dark blade for cutting and a light blade for scoring, and they navigate up and down and out of the way. So we're going to make that first cut here at 4 inches. Then I'm going to turn this, and I'm going to cut this in half at 3 inches. And this will be for 2 of our cards. I'm going to set that aside. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this strip into a 1 1/4 inch piece. I love that there are printed lines right here on the grid so that you can make sure your cardstock is straight. And then we'll cut one more time. These 2 pieces will make the other 2 cards. The template that I'm sharing with you here will be over on my website at lisasstampstudio.com. It will be a free download for you so that you can mimic this layout at home. I do have all 4 cards to share with you, but I'm going to stamp one right along with you today, and they are all different. For my cards, they'll all be using the Bonanza Buddies Bundle. When I say bundle, I mean that there's coordinating dies for this, and when you purchase them together, there's a 10% savings. So you can see how cute the stamp set is. And there's lots of pieces for you to use cards for both adults and children alike. The coordinating Bonanza dies are going to do all the work. This is one of the 3x4-inch pieces of designer series paper, and I've mounted the words Happy Birthday from that stamp set. I'm going to be using my Memento Black ink pad, and we're going to go ahead and ink those up. I'm going to stamp that greeting up here in the upper left-hand corner. I'm going to set this piece aside for just a moment, and I've got a scrap piece here of Whisper White cardstock, and this is where I'm going to stamp my Toucan from that stamp set. I find that when I'm using a solid photopolymer stamp set, which this is for the most part, that it's best for me to use my Pierce mat underneath my cardstock. This provides a little give from the bottom up and allows me to get a much cleaner image. So I'll go ahead and I'll ink up that stamp, and I'm going to stamp that here. There's a separate image inside the stamp set that fills the bink if you want just one color. And for this, I'm going to be using the Mango Melody. I'll be inking up that image, and we're going to stamp that right here inside. On that same piece of cardstock, I'm going to be using the Poppy Parade ink, and from that stamp set, one of the little banner flags. Now this actually doubles as a party hat, so I'm going to go ahead and ink that up. I'm going to leave a little space between them. Since there are 2 separate images and 2 separate dies, I'm going to go ahead and line these up. I can pass them through my die cutting machine at the exact same time. And the best tip I have for you is to anchor them in place so they don't shift. So I'm going to use one of my little Post-it note flags here. I'm going to anchor those down, and then we'll run those through the die cutting machine. I'll add these 2 pieces off to the side, and then I've got another scrap piece of Whisper White cardstock. And this time I'm going to be using the 2-inch circle punch. And then I'll punch out a circle. This is where we're going to house that image. I'm going to be using a small grid paper underneath me to catch the excess of the stamping that I'm going to be doing next. I know I wanted a branch for my Toucan to sit on, but this stamp set does not include one. So I started looking at it and I thought, you know what? This image here, which are supposed to be the balloon strings, is going to work perfectly. Let me show you what I did. I used the Granny Apple Green ink pad, and I've got the balloon strings here. I'm going to go ahead and ink that up. And I'm going to stamp that here sideways here near the bottom. For the leaves, I actually use the tail here for the lion image. This is all one piece, which is perfect for the alignment on the body and the head. But because it's off to the side, it allows you to ink it up very, very easily. And because it's photopolymer and clear, you can see where you're going. I'm just going to position my ink pad so I can use the corner here on that image. So I'm going to tap it, and you're going to see that it's going to turn the color of the ink. And then all I did was stamp the images to create leaves. And I repeated this pattern until I was happy with my result. I decided to add a layer to the designer series paper that's part of this template, and I cut it just slightly bigger than the actual designer paper itself. I'm going to be using my silicone craft sheet. Adhesive, liquid glue, and hot glue will not stick to it, which makes it great when you're paper crafting so that you can keep your work surface sticky free. And then I'm going to mirror this by leaving a border all the way around. I'm going to add a partial layer here to the left-hand side, and that's with Poppy Parade. That coordinates with the ink we used for the party hat. So I'm going to flip that over, and I'm going to add some adhesive to this side to house that layer. And then I'm going to mimic these three sides. I'm looking just to try to make them as even as possible. These layers are now going to go on the base of my card, which I chose as basic black. Now I did score it in half right before you joined me. I'm using my bone folder for a nice crisp edge. And then once again, I'm going to add adhesive to the back side of these layers. That'll get adhered here in the center of my card base. Remember the image with the circle? We're going to go ahead and adhere that here. Now you can choose to use dimensionals, but today I'm actually going to adhere it flat. I'll place that here. All we have left are the pieces now for our toucan, and I'm going to add an embellishment here to the top of our party hat. I'm going to flip that over, and I'm going to be using dimensionals to give this a little bit of a lift. So I'm going to add a couple here, and then I'm going to bring in my mini dimensionals, and I'll use my paper piercing tool attachment to help me pick up one of my mini dimensionals for here on the beak and then here on the tail. That's just going to make sure that my image is well balanced on my card. I'm going to remove those paper backings. I'm going to position my toucan here on the branch. Now we have the party hat. Now I want to give you a tip about where you're going to place the dimensionals. So I'm going to turn that upside down, and I'm going to be taking another mini dimensional here, and I'm going to place that near the very top of the hat. I certainly want to make sure that it doesn't show from the back side. Then I'm going to take a glue dot, or in your case, if it's adhesive, that works too, and I'm going to tack that here at the bottom of the hat. So we've got adhesive on one area, a dimensional on the other. And the reason for that is there's an elevation difference here because the head is already raised, and we're going to compensate for that. And then I'll take off that paper backing, and then we're going to position the hat on top of his head. From that same suite of products, there are these adorable assorted pom-poms, and they come in the same colors that coordinate with the designer series paper. I chose to use one of the Poppy Parade, and I'm going to press that right here on top of my glue dot. Now, if you prefer to use a dab of liquid glue here, you certainly can do that. And I'll lift that off, and that's going to go right here at the top of my hat, and then I'll press that in place. Isn't this adorable and really, really simple? Now, I have 3 other cards to share with you using the Bonanza Buddies Bundle. My next one uses the koala that's part of that stamp set. I stamped him in smoky slate. These circles are the balloons that are part of that stamp set, and of course there's a die to match it. This is that strip here that we cut at the bottom of the designer series paper. Now you might be saying, well, that's a lot longer than you need, and actually this is a good thing. Let me tell you why. When you go to adhere it to here, open it up and cut from the back side using your scissors. That's going to ensure that you are just not a smidgen short on either side. And if you're a frugal paper crafter like me, you can go ahead and save those scraps to use with punches and other cards. My next card is simply balloons with party hats. Really, really easy. This is that narrow piece of designer series paper, and I just placed it on an angle, stamped my greeting here, added my hats and pom-poms. Now a tip for you about these dies that cut out the circles. You can stack all 3 designer series papers at one time because it's very thin, and crank them through your die cutting machine, which will save you a considerable amount of time. My final card uses the lion, and one of the things I absolutely love about these dies is it's going to cut the pieces separately. So even though the die itself appears to be one piece here, it actually die cuts the head and the body separately, and there's another one here for the tail and the mane that get cut out and then attached, and you can use glue dots, adhesive, or dimensionals. It makes putting this card together really simple. This is actually one of the gift boxes that are from the stamp set. hat here. All I did was cut it in half. These are the banner dies that are part of this set. And then I used the party hat to fill in the banner with coordinating colors for my card. You'll be able to find the Bonanza Buddies Bundle, which is the stamp set and the coordinating dies, in the Stampin' Up! Mini catalog. Now, if you don't already have a demonstrator and you are interested in receiving complimentary copies of these catalogs, head over to lisasstampstudio.com and click on Contact Me. And I'll be sure to include Stampin' Up's largest sale of the year brochure called Celebration. I would love to know which one of these cards is your favorite. Would you leave me a comment below? If you have enjoyed today's video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up here on YouTube, which is a like. It certainly helps. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day.